Hey everyone, so this is my first attempt at an art video voiceover type thing, so please have some patience with me. So today I went ahead and installed this track curtain rod, and these are the slider hooks that go into it. And it was my best solution to a window that would get quite a bit of light in, and my sleep is very important to me. So I'm going to basically be showing you the process. This is not a how-to, and I'm not going to tell you the details of how I did this. It's pretty obvious by watching maybe. If you have any questions, let me know, but I'm just going to ramble while you watch. So this project was very frustrating in very small ways. So I wasn't too upset by the frustration, but I will say that I was a bit surprised by the things that I encountered, because it's like anything that's new or experimental always comes with its hiccups, right? Because that's the whole thing about it, right? It's new. But I will say that the place that I seem to find myself the happiest is when I'm just outside of my comfort zone. And that's a very hard thing to admit, because it feels like so much is outside the comfort zone that it's hard sometimes to find what is just right there, you know? And the projects that I work on all tend to be either something that is a challenge in and of itself, or it's something that's just outside of my comfort zone. So it's a challenge in that way. But what I've discovered by doing yet again another project, this one today, is that despite the unknowing aspects of it, the things that I couldn't have predicted happening and prevented, they weren't catastrophic. They didn't stop the project from happening. But I do recall, it was interesting how at one point when another thing had happened, I think at some point when I was sewing, my sewing machine, or myself, whichever is doing this, seems to have an issue occasionally with thread backing up, and I have to go in and do all this removal process and everything, and it can seem overwhelming and very frustrating and you know, like challenging, because the sewing is already like my focus. I don't want to have to focus on fixing a computer, you know, device thing, a sewing machine. But this time, my experience of that was actually more along the lines of, it was a funny observance. And while it wasn't fun to have to dismantle the sewing I had just done, I found myself discovering this amazing sense of, this sounds kind of strange or conceited, but in my head, but joy. Like, I found this really amazing amount of joy that was in this place that I had experienced so many times before, you know, this challenge of whatever it is that I'm doing, in particular sewing. And what I found in this place this time was something that I did not expect. Being happy along a struggle, a challenge, you know, whatever difficulty, is almost seems the opposite of what it should be. And because I've worked with steady momentum, just keep moving forward, and I tell myself that all the time, just keep taking the next step. It's so applicable to so many very in front of you projects, in front of you things, because there's so much in life that cannot get done unless you take those incremental steps forward. And it seems logical in life, but when we apply it to our personal advancement, it seems to elude us. And I've struggled with that more times than I would like to even count. But what I've discovered at this stage of my experience is something that I could never put anything in place of it. It's such an amazing possibility of experience for myself. Not saying that it's not something that says I can be a worker bee, if that makes any sense. I think that this kind of lends itself to productivity, and that's not what it's about. Instead, it's about the ability to do more when things feel really burdening. And that is really where the greatest challenge, I think, for people like myself who are, you know, emotionally sensitive, or, you know, really live in their feelings, you know. Highly sensitive people is something that's becoming more well known. So I think that the lessons learned in a project like this, where it's not only a physical burden, this was a lot of fabric to lug around, I will tell you. It was so heavy, it was so cumbersome, and I had to run it through that sewing machine and, have a lot of patience with this process because I couldn't do it any differently, right? So that right there was showing me as I was going along is just to be in that exact moment that I was working, because if I wanted to get this done and do it well and do it to the best, excuse me, to the best of my ability, I was going to have to be patient with myself, first and foremost, but also with the thing in front of me, the project, whatever it is. I'm really glad I finally got this done. The main reason for even embarking on this challenge for myself was because I value sleep immensely, and I think it's an incredibly important part of our well-being, and emotionally and physically. And I needed the best kind of curtain rod I could find, not just for blocking light, but for efficiency and ease of use that was minimal. I really like a very minimal experience of my aesthetics, generally speaking. So it's something I do by default, and this was along the lines with my life and my living. So I'm very happy with how this turned out, and thank you so much for joining me on my first episode of me doing something creative and doing this lovely voiceover. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for being you, because you truly are, and we both are, truly wonderful and beautiful spiritual beings. Namaste, lovely.